Minister of Labour and Employment Chris Ngige say federal workers to earn 30,000 naira, while the national minimum wage is 27,000 naira at House of Representatives public hearing on national minimum wage. Federal government collaborates with the UK and other development partners on economic development. Oil prices unmoved by political turmoil in Venezuela. The program is Business Express, coming to you from our Abuja studios. I am Musa Abubakar. Minister of Labour and Employment Chris Ngige says federal workers are to earn 30,000 naira, while the national minimum wage is pegged at 27,000 naira. He was speaking at the public hearing by the House of Representatives on minimum wage at the National Assembly. Meanwhile, Ayuba Waba, president of Nigeria Labour Congress, disagrees, saying the minimum wage was reached through collective bargain by tripartite committee at 30,000 naira. Details will come your way subsequently. Sustainable government policies, access to finance and use of locally sourced raw materials in the manufacturing industrial sector have been identified as some of the measures of ensuring a robust economy in Nigeria. This was the submission of the President and Chief Executive Officer, Dangote Group of Companies, Alhaji Aliko Dangote, during a strategic leadership lecture for high-ranking officers of the Nigerian military at the National Defense College, Abuja.
With inconsistencies of government policies, you cannot plan. You know, because sometimes, like a goalkeeper, when you're about to score the goal, you realize that they're taking the goalpost behind you, and then you have to turn around. By the time that you turn around, the time is gone. So what we did was say, okay, fine, look, being traders, no matter what, whether you have money or you don't have money, when you wake up in the morning, you need the basic things. So I think we should not invent the wheel. Let us now just go ahead and just do something like, what do? Let us now be producing goods that we've been trading in. So it will be easier for us. At least we've taken some few things off, like sales, marketing, the logistic movement of those, and the customer base also.
The federal government says it is deploying strong coordination mechanism to cater to the need for accelerated revenue generation in the country. Only last week, the Minister of Finance, Zainab Ahmed, unveiled the government's Strategic Revenue Growth Initiative in Abuja. Lekatumba Batunde in this report tells us about the new policy.
Over the years, revenue generation has been a challenge that Nigeria has been grappling with, despite being the largest economy in Africa. All revenue to all GDP ratio is put at 39%, while non-oil revenue to non-oil GDP stands at 4.2%, necessitating the need to put in place the Strategic Revenue Growth Initiative, SRGI. Minister Zainab Ahmed at the launch said it was guided by the administration's Economic Recovery and Growth Plan (ERGP), pointing out that revenue enhancement has become critical for the mobilization of fiscal resources to deliver on socio-economic development targets.
There will be a VAT increase. During the course of 2019, we will have clarity as to which items and what the rate will be, and we will have to take a request to the National Assembly for amendment before it takes into effect.
Reiterate that the federal government is committed to improving the well-being and living standard of Nigerians through productive, sustainable, and inclusive growth.
I believe that with consultation with stakeholders, certainly the Nigerian public will be given advance notice at the time that these things might take place. And like the Honorable Minister said, some of them will have to go to the House and they'll have to be passed before they are actually put into action.
Presently, Nigeria's revenue to GDP ratio is at an unsatisfactory 7%, and this initiative is keen on exerting all efforts in turning this around through 3 thematic areas.
They need to review the automotive tax, and that we are saying the 35% is a baseline, which is the duty, but the 35% levy is what we think should be tinkered with.
The revenue initiatives have been broken into clear implementable portfolios for each relevant MDA, and a strong coordinating and governance unit will be deployed to monitor progress and results on revenue generation, to be chaired by the Minister of Finance.
Oluwasegun Kadiri of Q-Tax joins us now to take a critical look at this policy. He is a tax expert. You're welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, for starters, is there any sector of the economy that is lacking in growth or revenue prospects?
We can see over the years that the oil prices are very volatile, and obviously it's not able to sustain this. The infrastructural development in the country, and we can see that because of the volatility of the prices, it's unable to fund our budgets. So we have to look for other streams of income in order to sustain the revenue base of the country, and in order to enhance economic growth as well. And if you look at other sectors, quite alright, there are a lot of other sectors that are viable, but we need to bring them on board and include them into the drive for revenue.
Okay, what are those sectors that you think they're viable?
You can look at the small and medium scale businesses, for example. Majority of them are outside the tax net, probably because of the cost of compliance. So we need to get them on board as well in order to pay the right taxes at the right time in order to generate revenue. So there are a lot of other sectors like that that we need to include in this efforts for revenue generation.
Which other sectors do you think are more viable or considered to be viable?
Apart from taxes, because majority of our budget has been funded from the oil, from the oil revenue. So we have to start looking at the non-oil revenue. You understand? Majority of there are a lot of businesses at maybe the fast-moving goods, businesses like there are a lot of businesses are going online as well. There are small businesses too that are coming up. All these guys are not in the tax net. For example, I can give you a practical example. A couple of friends called me some couple of weeks back. They actually work in a very big legal firm, and they got a letter from FRS telling them to come and file VAT. These are big firms that make a lot of money all around the year, but they were not aware they have to pay VAT. But just because they got a letter from FRS now, they have to comply. So those are different kind of avenues that you can use in generating taxes by bringing them on board.
So in other words, awareness seems to be an issue.
Very well.
Okay, so why has mobilization of physical resources been a perennial problem?
Yeah, having this revenue problem has been for a very long time. And it has been reoccurring from year to year. We have found out that it is very difficult to fund our budgets over the years, and you will discover that a lot of government administration just come and they talk about, oh, let's generate revenue, but the political will is not there. For example, we have a lot of laws that are very obsolete. What have we done to those laws in order to stand the test of time? You understand? Because globalization has made a lot of businesses very easy with respect to maybe internet offering of services from outside the country into Nigeria. So all these things have to be captured by our laws. So we have to have a very holistic approach with respect to generation of revenue, and not just, and the political will has to be there as well. This administration has done tremendously well, within the past couple of years with respect to generation of revenue. We have the VAT, we have the various initiatives and unprecedented measures that have been introduced by this administration, and I think we just have to keep up with the pace and we'll be there.
Okay, so let's look at the 3 thematic areas of areas one after the other. Sustaining revenue generation. How do you think this will work?
we should first talk about generating the revenue before we can start talking about sustaining it. Right now, there's not enough revenue to even fund the budget. For example, the 2019 budget, a large part of it is going to be recurrent, a large part of it is going to be servicing of debt.
Yes.
Then the other part, you have to borrow money for infrastructure development. For how long can you sustain that? So you have to first think of how to generate this revenue, then you can now start thinking of how to sustain it. Taxes is one of the most sustainable way of generating revenue all over the world, and we have to start taking that seriously. You know, and I believe we'll be able to generate quite enough revenue to sustain our budget over time. You know.
Okay. So identifying new revenue streams is a second, and this is quite very interesting.
Yes.
Interesting in that where's the place of data now in achieving this?
Data, big data is very big, as the name implies, and you can see Nigeria starting to understand the essence and the importance of big data. Big data is, for example, your BVN, for example. Millions of Nigerians are enrolled on the BVN. The BVN should be integrated with your tax ID. That's like your the national identity card management, your ID cards. You know, it should be integrated with registration of cars at the VIO office. It should be integrated with your tax ID. It should be integrated with your bank account. You know, when you are able to bring all this data together, you can collect the right taxes from the right set of people, and you can ascertain what they are actually meant to pay. You know, so the data is very important for us to mine this data in order to get the right taxes from the right individual and to have them come on board to pay what is right, you know, to the government.
Okay, that thematic area is targeted at achieving cohesion between revenue generating entities and equipping them with cutting-edge tools, expertise needed to support high performance. What is your understanding of this?
There needs to be an integration between revenue generating agencies. For example, in most part of the world, taxes, that's like taxes and the custom and the tax collection agency is just one agency. But in Nigeria, for example, we have the customs and we have the FRS. They have quite a number of transactions, you know, that can affect generation of revenue if they are not working together. So what we need to do is we need to develop information technology tools that are very essential to make to have these people exchange information and data in order for them to be able to capture the right kind of transaction and the right kind of taxes. You know, so over the years there's been a lot of sharp practices from the fact that these agencies are not working in synergy. So we have to do something, you know, in order to bring them together, and we have to deploy information technology tools in order to create this synergy and to capture the necessary revenue and to get the necessary taxes from various importation of various goods and services as well.
Okay, talking about cohesion now, Nigeria still gets caught up in multiple taxation tangle. Do you think it's a problem of awareness?
It's very much a problem of awareness, because the way you mentioned multiple taxation, I smiled because I don't know of any multiple taxation in Nigeria. But the problem is Nigerians are not aware. They don't know who is to collect what and when is the person meant to come and collect. You know, the Taxes and Levies Act is very clear on who should collect what. You know, because of the kind of fiscal federalism in which we operate in, the local government, the state government, the federal government, they have various kind of taxes in which they are meant to collect. But because the people approach them and they are not aware of who to pay what to, you know, makes everybody talk about multiple taxation. So in my own opinion, I don't think there's multiple taxation. I just think there needs to be more awareness, you know, to businesses and individuals on who is to collect what, and you know, and at what time, you know, they should actually collect this kind of taxes.
Okay, increase in value-added tax seems inevitable, as pointed out by the Minister of Finance. But there is a concern from customs. Import levies on items like cars, whether away, resources to neighboring countries. What's your take on that?
Increase on VAT, you know, from what the minister said recently, is going to be on certain kind of items, most likely luxury items. You know, and over the years we have been saying increasing the VAT itself on general items and services is not the right time, probably because we are not getting enough from the rate in which we have right now. So we should be looking at working on the VAT Act. The VAT Act is very obsolete, and there are a lot of transactions that that are being consummated without it being captured by the VAT Act. And the VAT Act also needs to integrate automation and automated collection of taxes, into the Act, so as for it to make these revenue agencies more stronger, and for it to capture various businesses that were not existing in 1993, for example, when the Act was, enabled. So we need to be, because tax is very dynamic, we need to be, we need to be forward thinking, and we need to make the laws very much stronger in order to capture this kind of taxes. And for what the customs, the general customs Custom General is talking about, is talking about taxes that are meant to come into the country if the levies and the taxes were not high. So a lot of smuggling is happening because the custom duties and the taxes that are meant to be paid are very high. So it's thinking about reducing this cost in order for them to generate revenue. They were increasing the revenue, increasing the rates, thinking that it was going to generate more revenue, but it's counterproductive because a lot of people are finding other avenues to smuggle goods into the country, where a lot of people are being discouraged from even importing, some goods into the country because of the rate they are going to pay. So it's seeing it as being counterproductive, and is advising the government to reduce that particular fee in order to encourage more people to come into the tax net.
Now, how is smuggling affecting tax collection and remittances in the country?
For example, if certain goods are coming to the country should come through the borders, ordinarily those taxes are going to be captured by by customs. They will get their levy, they'll get the custom duties, they'll get the VAT and all that. But if they are being smuggled, those revenue escape being collected. So there's no how smuggling is not going to affect collection of this revenue. But if you reduce the rates and encourage people to encourage people to come out and pay those levies, on all these items. So we need to strike a balance, in respect to policy, to encourage people to come forward and bring their goods through legitimate borders.
Now, do you think Nigeria needs a stronger tax law?
Absolutely. We tax consultants and professionals have been clamoring for strengthening our tax laws over the years. We know it's quite a cumbersome and Herculean tax to get to do that because of the process, in Nigeria. But it's something we have to do. You can't try to impose a burden on an individual without the laws, the tax laws in place, and you cannot be using tax laws that were in place 20 years ago to capture transactions of 2019. So they have to stand with the test of time, and we have to strengthen our tax laws and our enforcement mechanism in order to collect the necessary taxes.
Okay, thank you very much, Oluwaseun Kadiri. Thank you very much for your contribution.
Thank you.
Now, the federal government has assured of its readiness to partner with any group or stakeholders towards the transformation and economic development of the country. Minister of Finance Zainab Ahmed stated this at the UK-Nigeria Climate Finance Accelerator Workshop, CFA, in Lagos at the weekend. Ahmed, represented by Mr. Israel Igwe, Director Economic Research and Policy, Ministry of Finance, said there was need for a coordinated green climate finance platform like the CFA in the economy. In his presentation, Mr. Chris Dodwell, Director at Climate Change and Clean Growth Ricardo Energy, called on stakeholders in the financial sector to collaborate towards financing developmental projects. He added that CFA was a powerful example of creating a productive dialogue between financiers and policymakers focused on scalable opportunities. The Nigerian equities market closed positive for the second consecutive week as investor confidence increases. The NSE All-Share Index gained 1.36% on the week. Let's have the details with Mupilanda Kok.
Nigerian stock market sustained the level of rally it recorded at the beginning of the year as the week ended trading in green. The NSE All-Share Index appreciated by 1.36% to close the week at 31,426.63, while market capitalization rose to 11.719 trillion naira. 1.8 billion shares worth 17.2 billion naira in 18,332 deals were traded in the week by investors. The financial services industry, measured by volume, led the activity chart with 1.6 billion shares valued at 14.6 billion naira traded in 11,778 deals. The conglomerates industry followed with 83.560 million shares worth 138.3 million naira in 951 deals. The third place was occupied by the consumer goods industry with a turnover of 36.251 million shares worth over 1 billion naira. Trading in the top three equities, Diamond Bank, Access Bank, and Guarantee Trust Bank, accounted for 871.5 million shares worth 8.4 billion naira in 3,305 deals. Also traded during the week were a total of 34,341 units of exchange-traded products (ETPs) valued at 440,166.37 executed in 7 deals, and a total of 3,498 units of federal government bonds valued at 3.1 million naira. All other indices finished higher, with the exception of the NSE ASEM, NSE Consumer Goods, NSE Oil and Gas, NSE Lotus 2, and NSE Industrial Goods indices, which depreciated. In summary, 40 equities appreciated in price during the week. 25 equities depreciated in price, while 103 equities remained unchanged.
Well, trading ended on a bearish note on the Nigerian Stock Exchange on Monday, 28 January 2019. The all-share index lost 0.26% to close at 31,344.24 basis points. Market capitalization dropped to 11.7 trillion naira. Investors exchanged over 222 million shares valued at 1.8 billion naira. From Europe to US, upbeat investors are sending markets on a gaining spree. Amina Nujem has an outlook of the performances of major markets around the globe.
African equities closed the week higher on Friday with major bursts reflecting a positive sentiment. South Africa's JSE Top 40, Kenya's Nairobi SE20, Tunidex and Namibia overall ended the week bullish except Ghana's JSE Composite, which shared 0.28%. U.S. stocks rose on Friday as investors looked past a poor Intel earnings report, instead focusing on a partial government shutdown solution. The Dow Jones Industrial Average closed higher by 0.75% to 24,737.20. The S&P 500 also rose nearly 1%. While the Nasdaq Composite moved higher as constituent Starbucks gained on strong earnings. Major stocks indices in Asia closed positive despite fresh overnight uncertainties surrounding the ongoing US-China trade negotiations. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index gained 1.65% to 27,569.19. The Shanghai Composite gained around 0.39% to close at about 2,601.72. Japan's Nikkei gained 0.97% at 20,773.56. In Europe, the FTSE 100 was the only major burst to close lower, with the DAX and CAC 40 closing more than 1%. That's Global Market Report.
On that note, we conclude this edition of Business Express. We value your feedback, so don't forget to reach us via email.
Thanks for watching.